Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. So, this is, I guess, continuing on from the last Pursuit of Truth to do with the rioting, or I don't know what the term for the civil unrest that's going on at the moment around, well, most of the UK. I was going to say northern England, where the Southport event, and there was some in Liverpool where they started, but I think it's about a week now of these riots popping up all over the place. And I mean, I don't know what the argument is, but the media obviously talks about far right and anti-immigration. I mean, this is the planet is full of these injustices, and these are the two that human beings, can go out on the street and stand up for when there's so much inequality and injustice going on to human beings. And I mean, I just don't, because I mean, what it means is they bought into the great lie. I don't know if it's the biggest lie of humanity, the one that we don't even realise it's a lie, which is the fact that, the system that we live within has divided us all up into these areas and groups and boxes, like human beings seem to like to do. And we betray our intrinsic nature of that we're all human beings, we're brothers and sisters to each other, we are one creation, we're one species, we are human beings, all of us. And yet, obviously, in the system we live in this last 1,000 or whatever years, we're in these boxes of bits of map, and this circle means you're this, and this circle means you're that, and you'll get taught this to like these and hate these, and etc., and all that kind of stuff. These people are bought into that lie of, what is no more? Is it any more different? I don't know. I was thinking of this. Is it any more different than, in the Second World War, the beginning of that, with the hatred there were for Jewish people, or of before that the slave trade? What's the difference between what's going on now? Is there a difference? Because people, one set of human beings, a minority, have picked one type of people, immigrants, there's the word that is ascribed to. Well, I don't know how can you be immigrant of your own planet? This planet is all of ours equally, or none of ours. There is no immigration, there is no belonging, there is no possession. These are cavemen, old ways that human beings thousands of years ago made up to try and possess us and control us, and yet we're all buying into this in our own little ways still. And what's the difference between, like, saying that this one particular minority of people have picked on immigration, and are going out rioting over it? What's the difference between that and in the Second World War, and people going out and deciding, oh, I'm not going to like Jews, I'm going to throw stones at them? What's the difference between with how Africans were treated in the slave trade and etc., and all the colonization and all that? I don't know. I mean, personally, I don't see it as much of a difference, because it's the same, isn't it? It's one set of human beings picking on another set of human beings and degrading them, is that the right word, and seeing them as less or whatever, and thinking, and like setting fire to things, and like smashing windows. Like, I saw this one guy with a big pole just smashing random windows and setting fire to police stations and police cars because they're standing up for the mosques and the people that are being attacked. But it seems like we haven't progressed. We say we shall never forget. Well, we continue to, and not just these riots. You can look around I don't want to use that term. You can look at the place that we found ourselves upon, all the different places, the 300 whatever countries there are, and the different peoples that we divided ourselves up into for some reason. All of these things are taking place, where it's one set against another, like in Rwanda, like in Israel and Gaza. And of course now there's Hezbollah and Iran and Israel and I expect America will get pulled into this. I mean, history is littered with these same events of one set of humans. I mean, even back to, in the Bible and stuff, Cain and Abel, and I mean, even historically throughout history, it seems to be. Yeah, but I mean, is that because we divide ourselves up? If we all saw ourselves as one, if we are one, we know we're all one. But it doesn't make any difference, is it? Because we put labels on and we're patriotic to those labels more than we are patriotic to the fact that we're human beings, which comes first. I don't know, but it's just seeing these pictures of these people just looting and rioting, and not even for a cause that, I mean, there's no real excuse for looting or rioting, but civil disobedience maybe, or civil, or protesting peacefully, I mean, I know, the suffragettes and certain other things, it never would, the things never would have got sorted out if it was peaceful process. I know there's some argument to that, but I just don't know these people saying like wanting to take the country back. And I mean, even historically, even if they looked historically, the vast majority of people inside the Isles of Great Britain, England, Scotland and Wales, Northern Ireland, majority of them are probably not indigenous, British people because of, I don't know, was it the Saxons and the Romans and all that kind of stuff, and the wars that went on historically. And it was only really the Gaelic names, like the Scottish and the Irish. A lot of the English got killed, and so they would have been replaced. So DNA-wise, I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, it's just, but I mean that's just, falling into the trap of this argument of believing the great lie is the system that we live within, is that we're all separated by these little, countries and families and other boxes and circles that we put ourselves in, forgetting the intrinsic truth that we're all human beings and we're all one. And we'd much better serve ourselves and each other and the place that we stand ourselves upon and history and our legacy by being together and being as one and working together. But I look at this and I see like, well, look at all the things that are going on in the world. How are we ever going to change? It's not just the rich and the powerful and the 1%. They don't need to do anything because we are fighting amongst ourselves over silly things rather than the thing of humanity. I think it's impossible that human beings can never get on with each other. That all 7-8 billion of us get on with each other. How we will get on with each other in heaven, God only knows if that place exists. But I mean, it's shameful to be a human being and watching these things, not just this, everything that's going through our history, in my life, in everyone's life, in history and etc. We haven't left a great legacy, a great name for humanity, a title we don't deserve. Take care, easy. God bless and peace.
Good evening. The scenes on the streets of England tonight have been without recent precedent. Chairs have been hurled at police and windows were smashed as masked anti-immigration rioters broke into a hotel housing asylum seekers in Rotherham, South Yorkshire. Sky News witnessed stones and planks of wood being thrown at police in residential areas. The Prime Minister calling it far-right thuggery. And earlier, serious violence in Middlesbrough too. More than 140 people have been arrested, and the Home Office is now offering new emergency security protection to mosques. Tonight, we'll bring you the scenes of major disorder around the country. But first, Shingi Marike has this report from Rotherham.
In a week of disorder, these some of the starkest scenes yet. A hotel housing asylum seekers, targeted by rioters. Smashing a window and trying to storm in. The group also targeted the officers trying to protect the building, their weapons, anything they could get their hands on, burning objects in their way. With flashpoints like this continuing to erupt across the country, the Prime Minister with his strongest words yet.
I utterly condemn the far-right thuggery we've seen this weekend. Be in no doubt, those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow. I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online.
But even after that statement, the trouble continued in Rotherham.
Police now are targets because we've seen police officers in cars come in this direction have to reverse very quickly when they've been noticed by the groups of people who have headed in their direction. In fact, one of those police cars had their window smashed out on the street behind me, headed towards the Holiday Inn, which we're not going to head towards just to stay away from all of what is going on. But on that street behind me, there is debris, there is glass, there are beer cans, there is something in the middle of there on fire, just maybe a few hundred meters from the Holiday Inn, which we know has been targeted by those protesters.
South Yorkshire Police say a number of their officers were attacked, with at least 10 injured. It called the actions of the rioters mindless, achieving nothing but sheer destruction and leaving members of the public and community in fear. But already, the force is coming under fire, with counter-terror experts saying they should have been better prepared.
I have an intelligence document dated 2 days ago that highlighted an extreme right-wing protest at this location at 12 o'clock today. I'm disappointed that there doesn't appear to have been use of Section 34 powers, which allows people to be dispersed if there's likely to be alarm, harassment or distress caused, which very clearly, if the right wing are turning up at an asylum hostel, is likely to be the case. I would suggest there's a very serious failure by the planners and the senior leadership team in South Yorkshire Police. This is just not good enough.
As those in power continue to talk about bringing those involved to justice, this summer of disorder continues to spill into towns and cities across the country, with no real sign of ending soon. Chingy Marike, Sky News in Rotherham.
And another hotel has been targeted this evening. These are the latest pictures from Tamworth. Police there have tweeted that they're urging members of the public to avoid the area. Let's get a bit more on this now with our correspondent, Emma Birchley, who's in the newsroom for us. Emma, what more can you tell us?
Yes, so a second hotel housing asylum seekers being targeted, this time 70 miles south in Tamworth, the Holiday Inn. And reports came through from police at 8:20 in a tweet. This is what they had to say. We're aware and responding proactively to protest activity in Tamworth today, the 4th of August. Officers are deployed in specialist public order equipment. Robust action will be taken against those responsible for violence and disorder. And as the evening has gone on, the police have said that large group has been throwing projectiles, smashing windows, starting fires and targeting police. And there was another post on X at 9:40 from Tamworth Police saying, we're urging members of the public to avoid the area around the Holiday Inn as specialist officers continue to deal with violent acts of thuggery. And we're told that one officer has been injured and they're using specialist drones to sweep over the area, as well as National Police Air Service, the aim being to identify those who are responsible for what's happening there in Tamworth. And it's the same message as we're hearing from those different pockets across the country, that you will be found, you will be identified, and if necessary, you will be charged and end up in court.
Emma, thank you. In Middlesbrough, people are being urged to stay away from the town centre tonight. Bricks were being thrown at the police as groups spread around the centre. Sky Charlotte Leeming has been there today and has this report.
A day of chaos and criminality, an event which was described online as a peaceful protest, very quickly descended into violence. Hundreds of rioters, many of them with their faces covered, vandalised homes and cars which they attacked at random across the town, leaving a trail of devastation. Cars were set alight as terrified residents watched on from their homes. On Sky News, we captured the clashes live on air as police tried to hold back the mob.
They are launching a wheelie bin on fire there. You can see launching it at the line of riot police there. There is a woman there. It's unclear if she's injured, but she is just being helped up by an officer. She's right in front of that wheelie bin, which is now on fire.
Cleveland police flooded the town with officers and riot vans. A cameraman trying to film scuffles with police was attacked by the rioters.
So I got my camera up and started trying to film that, and basically one of the rioters just grabbed it out of my hand, said something like, you know, no cameras here, we don't want your cameras here, and just smashed it on the ground.
Playing a game of cat and mouse as masked men storm the streets, trying to avoid capture.
We're just going to move away because this with weapons, potential weapons in his hand, he said to me, no, it's all right, you're safe, but you know, you can just see the level of activity here, can't you, that people are looking for trouble.
Police made a number of arrests and have said more will follow.
They will feel the full force of the law, and they will live to regret what they've done today, because they will be tracked down, they will be identified and prosecuted and imprisoned in many cases for what they've done. This is utterly outrageous, and they should hang their heads in shame.
Tonight, people are being urged to stay away from the town centre as police continue to deal with the disorder. But many here in the community have condemned the violence, saying they felt like prisoners in their own homes as their town was overrun by a mob intent on violence. Charlotte Leeming, Sky News, Middlesbrough.
Our political correspondent Rob Powell gave us this update on how the government is dealing with the unrest.
Downing Street once again lit up in pink in memory of the three little girls that lost their lives earlier this week on Monday. A very different situation the government is faced with now, and the language from Sir Keir Starmer today around the rioting and disorder we have seen noticeably harder, both in his warnings, saying that to people taking part in this violence, they will live to regret that, but also I think in where he is pinning the blame and who he believes the perpetrators are in this, quite explicitly saying that this is far-right thuggery. Now, the evidence broadly backs that up as the cause. Yes, we hear from correspondents on the ground that as these events of disorder start to swell, they suck in other people from different groups. But it does seem clear that the initial spark and start of a lot of this is the far right. But I think it's still significant that the Prime Minister is saying this in such a clear and quite combative way. He could have come out and talked about violence on all sides and talked about the grievances and political motivations people have. He did the opposite of that today and said that this was violence and that the motivation was essentially irrelevant. Now, in the short term, that could risk inflaming tensions with these groups further. But I think what Sir Keir Starmer is trying to do is ensure that legitimate policy debate and political debate isn't shaped and led by violence. In terms of the practical response from the government, I think that is almost in the model of what the response was to the 2011 London riots. Strong continued backing for the police, political cover for the police to do what they feel needs to be done, but also the standing up of the judicial system, courts, prisons, prosecutors, so that people can be dealt with very quickly and shown that there are consequences to actions. But yes, Downing Street lit up pink again. At the beginning of this week, Sir Keir Starmer no doubt thought that his role this week would be to play a part in the grieving process. That has changed significantly now into what is probably Keir Starmer's biggest first test as Prime Minister. Such is life when you're running the government.
What's been happening tonight is not an isolated incident. For the last 3 days, violence has broken out. There have been at least 145 arrests. 24 hours ago, Bristol was the focus of serious disorder, with residents and business owners forced to begin a clean-up operation. As we've been hearing, it's prompted an urgent response from the government and the police. Adele Robinson has been looking at that response.
Wave after wave, as violence descended. Scenes across the country now at risk of becoming normalised. Among the worst, Liverpool, parts of it set on fire, including a library. The morning after, and the city still smoulders.
Disgusting. It's a reason for violence. It's not certainly not in my name. Nazis burn boots. These have gone one step further and burnt a library down.
Protests, yeah, but not actually going around damaging things. That's not going to work. It's just going to get you in a lot of trouble.
Disorders swept across the UK in the wake of the Southport knife attacks, catalysed by disinformation online.
There's a differential between what happens on Tuesday in Southport and what happens here. Definitely on Tuesday there were people bussed in from all over the country because we know that, because we see the travel patterns. This was more about local youths being stirred up by social media, by that communication of everybody, let's get together and all that.
In Bristol, counter-protesters outnumbered far-right groups with tensions spilling into violence. As volunteers cleaned up, Shabam, a refugee living here since 2000, described his fear.
We always got the fear constant in the back of our head of, are we going to get attacked? Are we welcome here? Should we be hanging out in this park? Should we be going to this neighborhood? So, we really need, a bit more police presence.
It doesn't matter where you've come from, you are welcome here. But the thing that warms my heart is seeing all the people who came out to stop that racist thuggery happen and stood in the way.
But the risk is more of the same.
What the new Labour government does not need right now are more weeks of this, a summer of discontent reminiscent of the 2011 riots. Their plan right now is to disincentivise troublemakers.